stage. I think it's amazing. Hey, welcome to 2023. And I'm so excited for this spring semester. Man, I know a lot of y'all are just rolling back in town, and there's a lot of things y'all are looking forward to about the spring semester and about 2023 in general. But I want to start off just looking back a little bit at the previous year, you know, and just asking us the question, like, who are some of the most influential people of 2022? So discuss with people around you, like who was like the king of 2022? You know, somebody that was influential, whether it's in sports, whether it's with money or whatever, on social media. Just discuss with people around you. Who are some influential people in 2022? And I'll bring us back. I'll bring us back. Hey, I'm going to share a few that I noticed really dominated in 2022. You know, there's a few of them that came to mind, but one of them was definitely this dude. His name is Messi, you know what I mean? And he won the World Cup, you know, and he's been dominating for a while. Honestly, you know, he might be the king of soccer, who knows? But hey, you know, he's been dominating for a while. Messi definitely was a king in 2022. Georgia, hey, Kirby Smart, you know, won the national championship. I know some of us are probably rooting for TCU. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? Purple Pride, even though it's a different school, you know what I'm saying? But Georgia, honestly, they just dominated, man. 65-7, that's tough. They're the kings of 2022. This girl right here, it's kind of crazy. I was just looking, I was like, yo, who are some social media influencers? And I guess this girl literally has like the most followers up on TikTok, you know what I mean? I think her name is Charlie, I think, you know what I mean? And she dominated in 2022. They say she's the queen of social media right now. I'm like, who? You know what I mean? This dude, Tom Cruise, 2022, he dominated. Man, he actually was the top grossing actor in 2022 because of that Top Gun movie. And that Top Gun movie was solid, you know what I mean? I really enjoyed it, you know? Man, Patrick Mahomes, you know, he's been talked about a lot, but man, he's honestly one of the greatest football players I've ever seen. You know what I mean? This dude is amazing. I'm not even a Chiefs fan. I like want to hate him, but I like can't hate him. You know what I mean? Like, the dude is amazing. He's one of the kings of 2022. But even as we think about people who have dominated, you know, 2022, and as we look back, I want us to kind of pivot a little bit and look forward a little bit. You know, and even as we think about, man, our development spiritually, and as we think about where we're going and into 2023, I want to ask us this question. And who is going to be the king of your 2023? You know, when you think about your life, when you think about the direction you're headed, when you think about the decisions you're making, you know, who is going to be the king of your 2023? Well, welcome out to Late Night. Like I said, my name is Blake Slaughter, and this is my beautiful wife, Millie, okay? We've been married for 2.5 years, and it's been absolutely amazing. I absolutely adore that woman, and we have been on an amazing adventure called marriage together, you know what I'm saying? And we've been having a lot of fun, you know? We've been doing a lot of things, and as we've been having fun and doing things, you know, we've been kind of like, man, how can we, you know, add to the fun, add to the dynamic? You know, what's better than 2 than 3? You know what I mean? We're about 3 months or so in, you know, so right now we're starting to have the conversation like, are we going to have a little king or are we going to have a little queen? You know what I mean? Like, which one is it going to be? You know, but we are so excited to be added to our family. Man, I'm excited to be married to her and to build a family together, for real. But on this topic of a king or a queen, and when you look at that word king in the Bible, man, actually what you see is this word here, and it's the word Lord, okay? So when you see this idea, when you think of the concept of somebody that's in control or in power, like my child will probably be for me, you know, when it is born, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably going to control me for a while. Someone that's a king, that's in control, man, it's this word Lord. And this word Lord, it just comes from this Greek word, kyrios, okay? So it's he to whom a person or thing belongs, about which he has power of deciding. Okay, so that's the definition. So it's to the person or thing to whom someone belongs. So they have authority, you know, over that person, and they have the power of deciding. Okay, and so it's crazy when you look at the scriptures, man. One of the things that Jesus, man, is a Lord. Man, he's someone who's in control, has authority, has power. If you look at Philippians 2:10-11, it says that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord. And so not only is Jesus Lord of all, regardless of what you do with him, man, he desires for every single one of us, man, in a sense, to acknowledge his lordship or his kingship in our lives, okay? And that leads us to this next term that we're going to continue to come back to today, which is this word, which is lordship, okay? And so the lordship is the degree to which we allow Jesus to have control of our lives. See, Jesus is in control, and he has authority no matter what we do. The lordship is on my end, how much I choose to submit, man, to his authority in my life, and for to allow him to be the king of our lives, okay? And so I love this quote from Hudson Taylor, because I think it captures this idea of lordship really well. He says this, he says, Jesus is either Lord of all, or he's not Lord at all. You know, and I think it's so true. We think of this idea of lordship, man, he can't be in control of a piece of my life. He really has to be in control of my entire life. Man, I have to open up my entire life, man, and give him control as the true king. Here's an illustration that might help, okay? So this is a throne, okay? The throne is representative of, man, the power center of our life, man, the authority center of our life, man, who gets to call the shots, who's at the center, man, and at the end of the day has a final word in our lives, okay? So, man, the Bible clearly communicates that we're born with a sinful nature, okay? So that means for each and every one of us, man, we start off with self on the throne. The S represents self, okay? And then what we do, man, as we go through life is we discover different things and gifts that God gives, and what we do is we try to center them around us, okay? So whether it's like athletics, you know, man, sports, you know, we try to center that, man, around us. Man, our grades, man, our career, you know, man, where our life is headed from a career standpoint, man, we try to center that around us. Relationships, man, our social lives, that do dancing, you know what I'm saying? And our aesthetics, our looks, you know, man, our reputation. And then with our relationship with God, this is what we kind of do. We kind of have him, man, in his category. But at the end of the day, man, we're the one who calls the shots. And man, we're the one, man, who makes the ultimate decision. The only thing about living this way, or living with any of those other things on the throne, man, some people live with, man, athletics on the throne. Some people live with grades on the throne. Man, they make all their decisions through that filter. The only thing about living this way is that, man, eventually this is what happens, man. It gets all out of whack. Man, we're not good controllers. Man, we're not good kings, man, of our own lives. We've proven that time and time again. Man, you see this is the result of sin in this world. We tend to mess things up. And honestly, we tend to mess our own lives up. Man, if we're, at the end of the day, on the throne of our lives. And so when Jesus says in Philippians 2 that, hey, at my name, every knee should bow on earth and under earth, and every tongue confess that I'm Lord, this is kind of what he's getting at. Man, he needs to be on the throne of our lives. Man, he the other one needs to be the one calling the shots. He needs to be the one that has the ultimate authority. And then you know what happens when he's on the throne? Man, everything else takes its proper place. And see, my grades, my football, man, everything, my relationships, my social scene, everything begins to take its proper place, man, when I have Jesus on the throne of my life. And so Jesus really does want us to have him on the throne of our life, and he really is Lord of all, or he's not Lord at all. He doesn't want to be a piece. Man, he demands, man, to be the Lord, man, the controller, man, have the supreme rule in our life. And so what I want to do is just give us three realities of making Jesus Christ your Lord, okay? Three realities of how this plays out, what this looks like. And I think it'll help us to get a picture of what it means and what it looks like and to have Jesus Christ, man, as the absolute Lord of my life. The first one is this, is that making Christ your Lord involves a total surrender. Making Jesus Christ your Lord involves a total surrender. Look at Galatians 2:20. Man, Paul the Apostle, he's one of the earliest teachers in the early church, and he's teaching, man, about his relationship with Christ and what it means for Jesus to be Lord of his life. He says this, he says, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And I love that first part of that verse. It's where he says, I have been crucified with Christ. You know, you think about that idea. Man, I've been crucified with Christ. Man, there's a total surrender there. Man, a crucifixion, man, is one of the most gruesome pictures that you can paint, man, of something happening to something else. Man, crucifixion is one of the worst deaths that anyone could die. And man, he chooses to use that illustration to describe, man, what's happening in his heart. He's saying, hey, something died. Man, there was a total stoppage that happened at some point, and now something else lives. Man, there's a total surrender there. And he says, the life I live now, I live in the body, I live by faith. Man, the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And Jesus makes it clear, and he's not playing games. There's really is no, man, him having a piece of my life. Man, he really does desire to have all of our life. Man, so much so that he says this in Luke 6:46. He says, hey, why do you call me Lord, Lord, King, King? Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? He says, hey, man, there is no man, half in, half out. Man, you really need to totally surrender to me. You have to do what I say. And when I think about somebody who is totally surrendered or totally sold out or all in for something, man, I think it's appropriate to talk about him, man, on a day like today, with it being Martin Luther King Day. But it is Martin Luther King. Man, Martin Luther King was totally sold out, man, for the cause of civil rights, man, in the 1960s. So much so, man, that no one could question his commitment. Man, he was willing to go to jail multiple times. He had his house bombed. Man, he was thrown in prison multiple times. Man, he literally had death threats. Man, some people estimate that he had a death threat every week, man, for the final 4 years of his life. Man, he was willing to go through all that because, dude, he was totally surrendered. There was nowhere he was unwilling to go and nothing that he was unwilling to do, man, for that cause, man, of civil rights in America. You know, so much so that at the end of his life, man, this is one of the things that he said, and it's kind of a serious quote, but I think it captures what we're talking about tonight. He says this: if a man has not discovered something he's willing to die for, he isn't fit to live. And obviously Martin Luther King did, man, pass away for his cause, man, but he was totally surrendered, man, to that cause. And I think it's a good picture for us, man, of what it means to be totally surrendered, man, to Christ. You know, to say, hey, man, I'm willing to go wherever. I'm willing to go do whatever, man, whenever. I'm all in a sense, for you. Whatever you say, I'll do. Man, I'll totally surrender to you. So what that means for us is that, man, we have to wrestle with, in our own hearts, man, are we willing to do that? You know, have we gotten to the place where we're saying, hey, man, I trust you as king. Man, you've shown yourself to be who you say you are, and I'm willing to put it all on the line for you and to say, hey, man, I'm totally surrendered to you, man, as the king of my life. But not only does it involve a total surrender, making Christ your Lord, here's the crazy thing: it changes your desires. It changes your desires. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, I mean that when you make Jesus Christ the Lord of your life and you accept him, you receive him, and you go all in, what happens is not only do you begin to work for him, he begins to work in you. He begins to change, man, your desires and what you actually want. Look at Ezekiel 36:26. It says this: it says, I'll give you a new heart. It's a promise from God. I'll give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. And now in this passage, there's a lot going on, but look at all the things that God says that he's going to do in us. Look at it, says, hey, I'll give you a new heart, put a new spirit in you, give you a heart of flesh. He says he's going to move us, man, to follow his laws and decrees. Man, when we give our life to Christ and when we make him Lord, man, he begins to work in us. Philippians 2:13 gives us more clarity on this. It says, for it is God who works in you to will and to act according to fulfill his good purposes. Man, God is working in you, man, to will, man, and to act according to his good purposes. He's changing you literally from the inside out. When I think about this, one thing that I think about is marriage, okay? So like I mentioned before, me and Millie have been married for 2.5 years, you know what I'm saying? And it's been a lot of fun. And honestly, when I was standing up there on the stage right there, I really didn't know what, was necessarily in store. I knew some changes were going to happen, but I didn't know, how much change, necessarily was going to happen. And, there's been a few ways that Millie over time has just kind of like rubbed off on me, you know what I mean? Like things that have kind of changed, desires that have been switched around. Like one of them is Chick-fil-A, okay? So man, honestly, when we got married, I was like, man, one of the biggest Chick-fil-A haters, you know what I mean? I was like, what a burger all day, Chick-fil-A is overrated and trash, you know what I mean? I was that kind of guy, And man, after a couple of years, man, we were actually in Branson a while, at SMC a while back, and I was like, yo, babe, she was asking me where we should go, and I was like, babe, we should just, pull up on Chick-fil-A. She was like, what? I was like, yeah, we should pull up on Chick-fil-A. That's spicy deluxe, be fire, you know what I mean? Man, my relationship with her really is, changing my desires. Another one is plants. Like, honestly, I didn't know anything about plants. You know what I mean? Like literally, I just walked by them and didn't pay attention to them. But now I'm like, okay, that's a snake plant, that's a spider plant. That's a magnolia. You know what I'm saying? I got it working. You know what I mean? Because my wife loves plants. You know what I mean? She's rubbing off on me. Even like interior design, like home stuff. Like y'all should have seen my bachelor pad before I got married. Like I didn't care about what was on the wall or what the paint was like or nothing like that. Now, man, being around Millie, she loves, working with paint, making stuff nice and all of that. Like, I'm down in there, you know what I mean? I'm changing floorboards and all of that, I'm trying to make this thing nice. Man, I love bright colors, just like her. It's crazy how my relationship with her really has led to, man, changed desires. And as I think about that, and I think about, man, Jesus being Lord of our life, man, if he really is Lord of our life, man, what kind of change in the desires do we have? How is he rubbing off on us, in a sense? Man, how is he changing us and transforming us from the inside out? Man, he should be changing what gets you up in the morning. Man, he should be changing, man, what gets you most excited. He should be changing your desire for the Word. I mean, before the Word was this thing that sat on a dusty bookshelf, man, if Christ is Lord of your life, he's beginning to change your desires. And man, all of a sudden, man, the Word is precious. Man, it's something that you want in your life. He's beginning to change your desire for community and being around other believers. Man, before, man, they're the weird people, right? And then now all of a sudden, it's like, man, I want to be around these people. Man, I want to be like these people. Man, a desire to see others impacted. Before, you never thought about, man, people's eternal state and, man, whether or not they knew Christ. Man, but if Jesus really is the Lord of your life, man, he should begin transforming that, man, to where you want to see other people impacted. See, making Christ Lord of our life really does change our desires. But not only does it change our desires, it also changes our decisions. Not only does it change us from the inside out, man, he also begins to change from the outside in, okay? So, man, when Jesus is Lord of my life, I'm changing from the inside out, but also, man, my decisions and what I decide to do in life changes. I love this verse right here, 1 Corinthians 6, 19 through 20. It describes a little bit of what's going on inside, man, when you made Jesus Lord, okay? It says, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God, okay? He's asking the question right there. He's pointing out the reality to them that, man, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit is at work in you, causing you to love God, love people, and love his word, right? And he's describing what's going on internally. But then look what he says right after this, because he's about to describe, man, the other side of this, which is their responsibility, and man, the decisions, the type of decisions that they need to make. He says, you are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. Man, as a result of what's going on in you, man, there should be a sense where you begin to make decisions in light of God and Jesus and his lordship in your life. I love this picture right here. I mean, this is probably the clearest picture of this that I see in the New Testament. It says this. This is Jesus in the garden. He's about to go be crucified, okay? And literally, everything inside of him, man, doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to go through, man, being crucified. But look at how he wrestles with God and look at the decision that he comes to. It says, going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, okay? So he's feeling distressed. And it says, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Man, one of the most powerful words, man, that I've read, man, in the New Testament right there, yet not as I will, but as you will. See, God does change our desires, and man, all of a sudden we want to do the things that he wants us to do, but also there's a reality that God also calls us, man, at times to die to our desires, and for us to make decisions in light of who he is and what he called us to do. And think about Jesus when he's sitting there in the garden. Man, think about it. He knows what's coming. And everything inside of him says, hey, man, I don't really want this right now. I mean, he knows, man, that he's about to get betrayed. He knows that he's going to, man, have a false trial against him. And he knows that he's about to get boxed in the ears and punched in the face. I mean, he knows he's going to get spat on. He knows he's going to get a crown of thorns put on his head and beaten to his skull. He knows that he's going to have a robe thrown around him and they're going to mock him, man, as the king of the Jews. He knows that, man, he's going to get drugged and flogged, man, in front of everybody. He knows that he's going to have to carry a cross after that. Man, and he knows after that, man, he's going to have to climb, man, up a cross and be crucified. Man, and experience one of the most excruciating deaths, man, that's possible. Man, he knows that, but in that moment, he decides. He says no, man, to his desires, to his will, and he says yes to God and to his will. Man, that's a reality for every single one of us, because, man, not only did Jesus, man, at times have to say no to his desires and yes to what God wanted, man, that's also true for us. Man, 1 Peter describes it really well. In chapter 2, it says, "To this you were called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps." See, Jesus isn't the only one that has to say no to his desires at times and say yes to God and make decisions in light of him. If Jesus really is Lord of our life, man, we're called to follow in those steps. We're called to live, man, that exact same way, to say no, man, to our desires and to say yes to God and to what he's calling us to. Man, and that at times means that we have to make hard decisions. We have to make hard decisions about how we spend our time. We have to make hard decisions about unhealthy friendships. We have to make hard decisions about, man, our downtime and what we do when we're chilling. We got to make hard decisions about what we put before our eyes, what we choose to look at. We got to make hard decisions on what we listen to. Man, we got to make hard decisions on relationships and sex. We got to make hard decisions with dealing with bad habits. Man, even though God works in our desires, man, as he's developing us, he wants us, man, at times to say no to our desires and to say yes to him and to follow him as Lord. So making Christ your Lord involves a total surrender. It changes desires and decisions. But not only that, man, it leads to God's best for you. It really does lead to God's best for you. See, one of the lies that we're tempted to believe is that making Jesus Lord of our life doesn't lead to God's best. That it leads to a boring life, that it leads to the worst life. But actually, it's crazy when you look at Scripture, and honestly, when you look at the people around you, what you see is that, man, following Christ and making him the Lord of your life does really lead to God's best for you. I love Ephesians 2:10. It says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God has prepared in advance for us to do." And I love that word right there, created in Christ Jesus. Man, it's true that when we receive Jesus Christ as Lord, man, we're created again. We're made new. And he calls us, man, to a new life with him as the Lord of our life. And then look how it describes, man, the life that he's called us to. He called us to a life of good works, which God has prepared in advance for us to do. It doesn't say bad works. It says good works. It says, man, this is the ultimate, this is the best life, man, that God, man, has for you. Man, why wouldn't you want to step into that, man, and experience, man, the very best that God has for you? Man, John 14:21 even makes it more clear. Jesus says this, "Whoever has my commands and keeps them is the one who loves me." Man, again, that idea of lordship, man, you call me Lord, Lord, do what I say. But if you put him on the throne of your life and you have his commands and you keep them, man, you show that you love them. But then look at the promise at the back end of this verse. It says, "The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love them and show myself to them." Man, any of us want to experience God? Man, want to have, man, God show up in our life? Man, want to experience, man, a depth, man, of relationship with him? Man, the path to doing that is worship. Man, the path to doing that is saying, "Hey, Jesus, yeah, you're on the throne of my life. Man, I'll surrender to you. I'll follow you. Man, no matter what. Man, I'm all in." You know what I mean? Man, you'll experience, man, Jesus himself truly showing himself to you. I mean, I was thinking about this concept of this really leading to God's best for you. One of the things that came to mind for me is, and some of you know this, but I played at K-State a while back. Just a rainy picture of me, okay, from high school, and when I was getting recruited. And I got recruited and played under Coach Snyder. And Coach Snyder, man, if you know anything about him, man, great man, man, award-winning coach, man, won all kinds of titles and all that stuff, built K-State from like nothing to everything, you know what I mean? And I came in, and Coach Snyder is a hard-nosed coach, okay? Like, and ain't too much gonna fly past him, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta abide by the rules, you gotta do what he says. And honestly, early on, we kind of butt heads, you know what I mean? I was kind of like, man, this is too much, you know? I remember, the 6 a.m. workouts. Man, I remember, man, all the lifting that we did. I remember the conditioning that we did. We would do like 20 sprints after every single practice, which was, in my mind, that was crazy, you know what I mean? And then we would do stadiums, man, if we like missed a class. So like you couldn't miss a class or you do stadiums. And I remember through all of this, like feeling like, man, does this guy really know what he's talking about? You know what I mean? But then, man, I kind of had a moment of revelation where I was like, yo, this dude has a statue of himself outside of a stadium that he's still coaching in. You know what I mean? I was like, maybe we should just like listen to this dude, you know? And so, man, all of a sudden, I just started like listening to him. I'm like, man, like let me just buy in, let me just humble myself, you know, and buy into this program. And it's crazy because me and a handful of other guys did that. And man, as time went on, man, we won way more games than I could even imagine. We won a Big 12 championship, you know what I'm saying, in 2012. Man, and then man, we won a bunch of bowl games, you know what I'm saying, like during my time in college. And I mean, I remember then getting towards the end of my career and just being like, dog, like why didn't we just buy in earlier? You know, like we could have experienced way more wins, way more success, man, if we would have just bought in to the program. And man, I look back, man, at that time, man, when I first came into K-State, and man, I wouldn't have known that at the end of my time at K-State, man, playing football, that I'd be saying, along with a lot of people, man, thank you, Coach. Thanks for what you did. Man, I didn't see the full picture early on. I didn't know that it was going to turn into championships. I didn't know that it was going to turn into, man, one of the top defenses. I didn't know, man, that it would be this awesome, that my college career would be this good. And I wish I'd have just trusted you earlier on. But thank you. And man, I think that's a powerful illustration, man, as we think about, man, what it means to make Jesus Christ the Lord of our lives. Man, because in a sense, man, Jesus has been there. He's won the awards. Okay, he's been to heaven and back. He defeated death. He's the undefeated champ against death, you know what I mean? And man, he's calling us to follow him as Lord. And he has a proven track record. And man, for some of us, man, we're like me early on. We're like, nah, I don't know. Man, I don't, does he really know what he's talking about? I understand. Man, trust him. Follow him. He knows what he's doing. And I promise you, Jesus isn't too far off from Coach Snyder in that, man. He wants to make you a champion. And he wants to make you a winner. And he wants to give you the best life possible. Man, if you'll trust him, follow him, and make him Lord. So making Christ your Lord involves a total surrender. It changes desires and decisions, and it leads to God's best for you. Well, man, since you all are out here at late night, man, one of the things we get to do, man, on Mondays as we talk about different topics is we actually get to hear from people who are in y'all seats, you know, who are walking through the same things. And so one of my buddies, Jordan, is actually going to share a little bit about what this has looked like for him to make Jesus Lord of his life. So give it up for him.
Thanks, Bert. So I grew up in the greatest city in the continental United States, Wichita, Kansas. And part of that, I grew up in a Christian home, so I grew up going to church, and I grew up going to Christian school, actually. So as an example of kind of how I grew up, in 4th grade, I memorized the entire book of Philippians, all 4 chapters. I mean, it's only for, instead of going to CC's, you know, getting pizza, you know, cinnamon rolls and stuff, but we did do that, so that's why I did it. But, I mean, that's kind of what my life was marked by. It was marked by, okay, I'm going to learn about God. I knew so much about God. I learned about the Bible. I even learned about other religions and why God, the Bible's like the one true God. And so I learned everything I thought there was to know about Christianity. I was like, wow, me and God, we're so tight. Like, I know God so well. And then now looking back, I see, wow, I actually did not know God. I thought I knew God. I knew a lot about God, but I didn't actually know God. And so that just really revealed itself my freshman year of college. I came inside and I had 2 goals. I wanted that perfect relationship. I wanted to get that girlfriend, you know, kind of have that person that I could rely on and trust. And I also really wanted the 4.0 so I could get the perfect internship, to get the perfect job, to get the perfect salary, to eventually have the perfect life. And so my freshman year really saw after those things. And at the end of it, it just didn't pan out. None of those things happened. I didn't have the perfect girlfriend, and unfortunately I did not get the perfect 4.0, as you'll expected. And I just was like, what's up there to life, you know? Like, I'm pursuing these things that are not really working out for me. But I knew about God, and I was like, man, what's God doing through this? But then I met Garrett. I met Garrett summer 2020, and just everything about Garrett was just so different from me. It's like we claim to be Christians, both of us, but he just lives so much more different than me. It's like, if you want to scale like spirituality, like, I was like somewhere down here, you know? And Garrett was like, you know, somewhere like all the way up there, you know? It's like, there's just such a big gap between us. And it's like examples what Garrett would do is like, he would wake up, it'd be like Tuesday morning, and it'd be like 6 a.m. He's up, reading the Bible and praying. I'm like, dude, this isn't Sunday, you know? Like, it's not church, you don't have to do that. And then also he would just like, he'd start like memorizing verses like on these cards, like he would unbox and keep doing it. I was like, dude, there's not even CC's involved. Like, you don't have to do this. There's no test. But eventually I just asked him, like, Garrett, why do you do these things? He's like, Jordan, I do these things because Jesus is Lord of my life. And I made a decision that I was going to have a relationship with him, and I was going to make him the center of everything. And part of that is that I want to get to know God. So I do these things to get to know God. I was like, oh, okay. Like, can you teach me how to do that? Because I had no clue. I grew up just thinking I knew everything. And so Garrett did start to teach me, and just over time, in October 2020, actually, I remember I was taking a Bible study that Garrett was leading, and I heard two things that changed my life there. Actually, the two were both in Blake's stock so far, but one verse was John 14:21. It says, whoever has my commands and keeps them is the one who loves me. The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love them and show myself to them. I looked at my own life and I was like, wow, I am not keeping God's commands, you know? I just realized, if I'm thinking about this in the terms of like me and my dad, you know, like I love my dad, and I'm willing, because I love my dad, I'm gonna obey my dad. You know, he knows what's best for me, he's got my back, and he's probably not gonna like do something that's bad. So I do like what he says, and so I thought about that most with God, like how can I frame like that? And also that quote by Hudson Taylor really just pierced me, where he said, if Jesus is not Lord of all, then he's not Lord at all. And so I was like, wow, I just have these things, like if I'm holding a fist, it's like I was just holding on to things so tight in college. And so that day, I just gave my life to Christ. I don't know when that was, but I decided I want to make Jesus Lord of my life. And so part of that was I started, I saw Garrett did. He's like, well, he's reading his Bible and praying every day. I want to start doing that, you know? And so part of that was in 2020, you know, it's 2020, it's COVID, you can do whatever you want, right? So it's like you can sleep in if you want, you can play video games. For me, I love to sleep, you know, it's like 11, 12 hours a day. My sophomore year was ideal. But I realized, man, if I truly like want to put Jesus first and everything, if I want him to be Lord of everything, he needs to be Lord of my schedule too. So I would be willing to flex and put time around God. Like I would give him time to be praying and read my Bible. Then also just the two things I mentioned, just relationships, and then also like work. And with relationships, the more I followed God, you know, just like kind of learn about what he had said, I realized that God was like, hey, Jordan, before you know someone else in a relationship, you have to get to know me first. And so slowly just the hand just started to open up. And it didn't happen overnight, it just started just to kind of let go. And then also, just with work, cool story about that was, so my sophomore year, going to my junior year, I landed the dream internship at my dream company, dream job, and I eventually got offered the dream salary. And I just loved that job. But during that summer, I just learned a lot, just reading my Bible, praying, just being with other people that are helping me grow. And just by doing those things, I realized that God was saying, Jordan, I want you to continue to realize how to make me Lord of your life. He's like, I think you need to grow more. And so I decided to go to Kaleo, which we'll probably hear about later. But I decided to go just so I could learn what it looked like to just further deepen those things. Honestly, there hasn't been any regrets in that department. But also, one last thing that changed my life, another verse. It's John 10:10. It says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I come to have life and have it to the full. Man, just have follow God. Now, just have completely learned what it looks like to just like kind of let go of that control and just give Jesus every area of my life. I've seen that life truly is to the full. It's not how I planned at all. There's things that have just completely been different than what I expected, but I can truly say that has been life to the full. And so, you guys want to make Jesus Lord of your life, I consider doing so because it has changed my life for the better. With that, thank you for letting me share. Welcome back to Blake.
To hear, man, the benefits of making Jesus the Lord of your life. And I want to close with just asking you a question, you know, and who's the king of your 2023? You know, as we look ahead, you know, as we look at this new year, and typically, man, the new year, man, it's a time of new beginnings. And what if this year, man, was the year that you went deepest with God than you ever have your entire life? What if at the end of this year, man, you could say, man, I know God more deeply, more personally, man, experientially, man, than I ever have before? Man, what if you knew the Bible better than you ever had before? Man, what if you had specific, man, prayers, man, that have been answered by God that you can point to and say, I've always heard about God, now I know, now I see. Man, this God really is real, man, he really is Lord of my life. Man, what would that look like? Man, how would your life change? How would it be better? Man, think about that. Man, what if he was the king of your 2023? And I want to close with just giving us a few points, okay? Just how, man, we can apply this, how we really can make him Lord of our 2023. Okay, so the first one is just this, is just give him your heart. Give Jesus your heart. Now, I know we're all probably at different places in this room, and for some of us, we may have not given Jesus our heart, may have given him our entire life, okay? If you haven't, I would encourage you to consider doing so. Consider, going all in for Christ. I promise, it really is worth it. I promise this God really is true, and he won't let you down. His promises really are true. He does give life and give it more abundantly. But then some of us, maybe we've just recently, given our heart to Christ. Maybe, at an SFC or something like that. Maybe you made a decision, hey, I want to really be serious about this. I want to go all in. I would say, continue to figure out, what it's going to look like for him to be Lord of every area of your life. And so there is a one-time decision where we make Jesus the Lord of our life, but then in a sense, he begins to peel back different areas of our life and say, what about that? What about that? What about that? And our tendency is just to kind of bristle up at that and to go, oh man, well, I don't know what to do with that. I would say, trust him. Trust him. He's doing a work in your life. He's working in your heart, and he's transforming you, and he's got something so good for you in store. Don't shut out areas of your life to him. Open up areas of your life to him. For some of us, maybe we've been following Christ for a while. Maybe we made him Lord of our life a while back. Continue, to make him Lord of your life. And what's that area that comes to mind when we talk about different areas of your life that deep down you're actually holding on to? Maybe it could be success. Maybe it could be your reputation or whatever. What's that one area, of your life that you're saying that you're holding out on God? I would encourage you, 2023, what would it look like for you to open your hand, to that area and say, I'm going to get honest about this, and allow God to begin working in that area of my life. So I'd say give him your heart. One thing that I want to mention, on that note, is there's actually a handout on your chairs, okay? It's a little packet, and it's basically an article that's written about what it looks like to give Jesus your heart, for you to give him your life. I would encourage you, if you haven't read it before, go ahead and read it. Take some time, maybe tonight or tomorrow, to just read through it. It gives a great picture, of what it means for Jesus to be Lord of your life, and what for me so you to open up your heart to him and allow him to have every access to every room in your life. So I'd encourage you to read through that, as an application point. The second one is give him your time. Give him your time. If I told you that I was married to Millie, but we never have a date night, we never hang out, you never see us together, that'd be weird, right? A relationship means that you spend time, with the other person. I would say, with this, maybe making Jesus Lord of your life really is just committing to spend time with him. Maybe it's saying, hey, I'm going to start getting up in the morning and just spending time in the Bible. Actually breaking down and what the Bible says, praying to him, actually communing with him and building our relationship with him. Maybe for you, it's like, hey, I just need to figure out what that looks like. Maybe it's getting with somebody, who knows how to do that, and saying, hey, how can we figure out, what this quiet time can look like for me? Where I just actually meet with God. But then obviously, we grow vertically in our relationship with God, but that also impacts our relationship with other people. Maybe it's saying, hey, I need to start reaching out to some other people who are growing, and begin to prioritize them. To say, hey, how can I invite them into my life? How can I, connect with these people and, learn about, what it looks like to continue to grow? There's opportunities to grow all around you, opportunities to learn about the Word and hear it taught. One of them obviously is here late night, and what we're going to do over the course of this semester is we're actually going to unpack different topics and different dynamics of what it means to grow and actually take steps forward in your relationship with God. And so we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics. How do I handle the Bible? What does a rich and deep prayer life look like? What do I do, about the relationships in my life? We're going to unpack all of that, over the course of the semester. So maybe you've given him your time to just saying, hey, I'm just going to prioritize this. I'm just going to say, hey, Mondays at 8:30, I'm going to prioritize, getting around other believers and hearing the Word taught, and learning more about what it means to grow in a relationship with him. Another way that you can honestly give him your time is, it's a little bit more time commitment, but it's Kaleo. And some of us may have heard about Kaleo, but Kaleo is a 9-week project down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's about 2/3 of the summer. You get a full-time job, and you get to learn more about what it means to walk with God, and then what it looks like to be a leader, who can impact other people, in their faith. And it's a great opportunity, to connect with other people, to grow. And I would encourage you, if this is something, that you would be interested in and learning more about, to figure out, how you can learn more about it. Maybe talk to somebody who's gone. man, to see what it could look like for you to invest a summer at Kaleo. But not only those two things, but also like, man, there's Bible studies, man, on campus, man, there's opportunities, man, to connect with other believers through that. Maybe for you, it's this semester, hey, I'm just going to commit, man, to this Bible study. Or maybe it's like, hey, man, I'm going to, man, block out some time and I'm going to meet with this older believer, man, that I know is really going to push me and encourage me in my relationship with God. And whatever it takes, man, this semester, man, give him your time, you know, and say, hey, I'm going to really make him Lord of my life. Last one is this, is give him your future. Give him your future. I know a lot of times, man, when we think about making Jesus the Lord of our life, it can be scary because you're giving him control of your life, right? You know, you're like, hey, man, wherever, I'm all in. And one of the fears is like, yo, where are you going to take me? You know, where will I be, you know, 5 years from now? You know, we can begin to dream about and fear, man, the things that we're going to potentially miss out on. But man, I think part of making Jesus Lord of your life is, man, developing a trust that says, hey, I trust you and wherever you take me. Man, I trust you and wherever you're leading me, man, I'm really giving you my future. Man, I love Jeremiah 29, verse 11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And that promise is so true, y'all. Man, if we really will trust him, man, if we really will make him Lord and make decisions in light of him, man, I promise you, he's got plans to prosper you. He's not here to hurt you. To give you a hope in a future. 14 years ago, I gave my life to Christ, and I felt all those fears. And I felt, man, how's my life going to change? What is this going to look like? Man, Jesus is pressing in the areas. Man, man, trust him. Man, let him work. Man, give him control of your life. I promise you, he really does have a plan for you. Plans to prosper you. He ain't going to harm you. To give you a hope in the future. So anyways, man, that's some ways to apply this to our life. What we're going to do now is actually take some time to discuss. So we just got two questions here. So with the people around you, go ahead and discuss what stood out to you. And then what do you need to do this semester to give him more of your life? All right. I'm going to bring us, actually somebody else will bring us back after this.